You're standing at the butcher counter staring at all that red meat and your mind is racing. Sirloin tip, flat iron, ranch steak, ribeye. Different names, different prices, and absolutely zero clarity on which one is actually worth your hard-earned money. And then there's the labels. Prime, choice, Angus, grass-fed. What actually matters and what's just marketing? If you've ever grabbed the same safe cut for the 10th time in a row because you didn't want to risk $40 on something you might screw up, this video is for you. We want it to be your definitive guide. We're ranking 16 of the most common steak cuts from worst to best. Real 2026 prices, which cuts are worth it, and which ones the grocery store is hoping you don't understand. Which steaks forgive mistakes, and which ones punish you for everyone. Stay until the end. We're going to simplify everything into clear categories. Best cuts for weeknight dinners, smartest choices for feeding a crowd, what to buy when you want to impress, and we'll cut through the grade confusion once and for all. No more guessing, no more wasted money. Let's get into it, and remember to stay active in the comments. Your feedback really helps the channel. 16. Round steaks. Round steak is the cut the grocery store quietly hopes you'll treat like ribeye, because that guarantees you'll hate it. This meat comes from the back leg, a working muscle with almost no marbling, no fat to keep things tender or juicy. You'll typically pay around $11 to $15 a pound in 2025, sometimes less depending on your region. Sounds like a deal. It's not. If you throw this on the grill and cook it to medium or beyond, you're not eating dinner. You're chewing through a mistake. Round needs to be marinated, cooked no further than medium rare, and sliced razor thin against the grain. Treat it like a roast you're slicing into steak portions. That's the only way it works. Old school diners knew this. They pounded it into Swiss steak and braised it for hours. If you're watching fat and cholesterol, round is lean. Very lean. But that leanness is also why it punishes you if you cook it wrong. We've all been there. Standing over a cutting board, sawing through something that was supposed to be dinner, wondering where it all went wrong. If round steak has ever personally victimized you, I want to hear about it. 15. Ranch steaks, shoulder steaks. Ranch steak is the lottery ticket of the meat case. Sometimes you win, often you don't. These come from the chuck, the shoulder. The chuck can produce genuinely good eating. We'll get to those cuts later. But generic shoulder steaks are a gamble. Quality varies wildly depending on which exact muscle ended up in your package. You're typically paying around $10 to $14 a pound. When you get a good one with decent marbling, you can sear it hot, slice it thin, and build a solid steak sandwich. When you get a bad one full of sinew, it belongs in a stew pot, not on your grill. These cuts emerged as value grill steaks, once butchers realized they could sell more chuck instead of grinding it all. That's not necessarily bad, but it means you're buying something that was marketed into existence, not a cut with a long track record. If you have a butcher you trust, ask them to pick you a good one. Grabbing whatever's in the supermarket case, you're rolling the dice. Has a ranch steak ever surprised you, for better or worse? I'm guessing there are some war stories out there. 14. Round adjacent value steaks. Sirloin tip is the cut that tricks you with its name. You see sirloin on the label and think you're getting something premium. But these cuts, sirloin tip, tip steak, knuckle steak, are structurally closer to round. They inherited round's toughness, not sirloin's tenderness. You're paying around $13 to $16 a pound typically. At that price, you might expect a real sirloin experience. Cook it like one, medium well, salt and pepper, and you'll be disappointed. Same rules as round apply. Marinate. Don't cook past medium rare. Slice thin. Think of it as budget roast beef in steak form. These exist because big box stores needed cheap steaks to fill the case. Sirloin tip sounds better than kind of like round but pricier. If you're feeding a large family on a budget and you respect the technique, these can work. If you're looking for steakhouse experience, keep walking. That word sirloin has fooled a lot of good people. Raise your hand in the comments if you've been one of them. No judgment here, just solidarity. 13. Flank steak. Flank steak is where things start getting good if you know the rules. This comes from the belly. Long, flat, with visible grain running through it. Strong beef flavor. Lean. Those muscle fibers are the key to everything. You're typically paying $16 to $18 a pound now. Flank used to be cheap. Now it's priced like it knows its own reputation. The rules are non-negotiable. Marinate it, sear it hard, stop at medium rare, slice ultra-thin across the grain. Cut with the grain and you're chewing rope. Cut against it and those tough fibers become tender pieces. That's why this is the classic fajita steak. If you're watching fat intake, flank is lean enough to fit. Just don't overcook it, or the texture punishes you. Flank was once considered scrap, mostly ground up. Tex-Mex culture turned it into something desirable. Respect the technique and it rewards you. Everyone has a secret marinade they swear by. Drop yours in the comments. I'm building a collection, and I promise I'll actually try them. 12. Skirt steak. Skirt steak is flank's wilder, more flavorful cousin, and the grocery store isn't telling you the whole story. This comes from the plate, below the ribs. More pronounced grain than flank, but also more fat marbled within. That fat is where the magic happens. You're typically paying $17 to $20 a pound. It's become a restaurant darling. Here's what makes skirt special. When you hit it with screaming heat, that internal fat renders fast, basting the meat while the outside chars. The loose grain picks up marinade faster than almost any other cut. But there are two kinds: outside skirt, which is tender, and inside skirt, which is chewier. Restaurants get the outside. Supermarkets sell you inside without saying so. Same rules as flank, but even more critical. Hot and fast. Medium rare max. Thin slices against that aggressive grain. Skirt was once barely worth selling. Fajita culture turned it premium. If you can find outside skirt from a good butcher, ask for it by name. Fajita night is sacred in some households. Tell me what goes on yours and don't hold back. I want to hear about the weird toppings too. 11. Tri-tip. Tri-tip is the West Coast secret that finally went national, but it comes with a hidden catch. It's a triangular roast from the bottom sirloin. Not heavily marbled, but enough fat to stay juicy when cooked right. Think roast beef with steakhouse aspirations. You're typically paying $14 to $16 a pound. Reasonable for feeding a family. Cook it indirect until medium rare inside. Sear the outside hard, then slice against the grain. Here's the catch. The grain direction changes partway through the roast. Ignore that and half your meat will be tender, while the other half chews like round. Tri-tip became famous in California's Santa Maria barbecue tradition. Great for crowds without ribeye money, but it requires attention to temperature and carving. If you've ever had tri-tip and thought one half was great, the other was tough, now you know why. Californians treat tri-tip like religion. If you're from the West Coast, tell me where you get yours. If you're not, tell me if it's even possible to find where you live. We've made it through the bottom tier. These cuts require technique, patience, or luck. Now we're entering the middle of the pack, where things get more reliable. 10. Top sirloin. Top sirloin is the cut that deserves way more respect than it gets. True top sirloin, not the vague sirloin labels that could mean anything, comes from the upper portion of the sirloin. Leaner than ribeye or strip, but still enough marbling and flavor to satisfy a real steak craving. You're typically paying $15 to $18 a pound. That's noticeably less than strip or ribeye. Many butchers call this the best everyday value steak. Cut it 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. Season simply, cook to medium rare. Legitimate steakhouse dinner, less money. The catch, generic sirloin packaging often mixes in tougher muscles. Quality varies wildly. Look specifically for top sirloin or ask your butcher. If your doctor has started side-eyeing your red meat habit, top sirloin is lean enough to be reasonable while still tasting like real steak. Top sirloin is the unsung hero of the Tuesday night dinner. If this is already your go-to, you're smarter than most. Tell me how you season it. Simple salt and pepper, or do you have a secret weapon? 9. Flat iron. Flat iron is the steak science almost threw into the grinder, until someone looked closer. This comes from the shoulder, from a muscle called the top blade. When researchers ran lab tests on beef tenderness, flat iron ranked second only to tenderloin on the entire animal. Yet it costs a fraction of fillet prices. You're typically paying $13 to $16 a pound for scientifically verified tenderness that rivals the most expensive cut in the case. There's a tough line of connective tissue down the middle of the top blade. For decades, the whole thing became roasts or ground beef. Then someone figured out, remove that seam, separate the sides, and you get incredibly tender, well-marbled steaks. This cut was only popularized in the 2000s. It's uniform thickness, so it cooks evenly. No thin ends overdone while the middle stays raw. Critical point: if the butcher leaves that internal connective strip in place, you get a tongue of gristle through the center. Make sure it's properly removed. Salt, pepper, hot pan, a steak that punches way above its price. If you see flat iron and haven't tried it, buy it. Flat iron is still a well-kept secret. If you already know about it, welcome to the club. If you just learned something, your next grocery trip just got more interesting. Let me know when you try it. 8. Chuck eye. Chuck eye is ribeye's little brother. Same family flavor, fraction of the price. Ribeye comes from the rib section. Chuck is the shoulder right next to it. Where they meet, the chuck inherits ribeye character. Similar marbling, similar rich flavor. You're typically paying $10 to $14 a pound. Compare that to $20+ for ribeye. In blind tastings, a well-cooked chuck eye at medium rare can fool people into thinking it's ribeye. The flavor is that close, but there's a catch. Chuck eye has more connective tissue. At medium rare, that tissue stays soft and the illusion holds. Push past medium and it tightens. Suddenly you're eating tough shoulder steak, not ribeye's twin. If you've ever stared at the case thinking, I'll just get ribeye again, I don't want to mess this up, chuck eye is your lower risk practice run. Keep it medium rare, trim hard seams, and you're getting incredible value. Here's a challenge: buy 1 chuck eye and 1 ribeye, cook them the same way, and do a blind taste test with someone you trust. Then come back and tell me if they could tell the difference. I'm genuinely curious. If you're still here and finding this useful, drop the number 7 in the comments to let me know. And if you haven't subscribed, consider it. Your support makes these deep dives possible. Now let's keep climbing. 7. Filet mignon tenderloin. Filet mignon is the steak that shows up at anniversaries and fancy restaurants. But chefs often order something else. The tenderloin does almost no work, just sits cradled inside the cow. Result: the most tender piece of meat on the animal. You can cut it with a fork. You're paying for that tenderness. Typically $25 to $35 a pound in 2025. One of the most expensive cuts you'll find. Here's where opinions divide. Among chefs and serious enthusiasts, filet is often considered overpriced, even boring. Why? Very lean. Minimal marbling. That buttery tenderness comes at the cost of flavor. You don't choose filet for beefy punch. You choose it for texture, luxurious, melt in your mouth. That's why it often comes wrapped in bacon or topped with compound butter. It needs flavor help. Filet became the status symbol of 20th century fine dining. French-influenced restaurants positioned it as ultimate luxury. The reputation stuck, even as many pros quietly prefer other cuts. If tenderness is your priority and you'll pay the premium, filet delivers. If you want maximum flavor per dollar, keep watching. Be honest with me, have you ever ordered filet at a restaurant and secretly wished you'd picked something with more flavor? Or is tenderness king for you? I want to know where you stand. 6. T-bone. T-bone is the steakhouse icon that often promises more than it delivers. Short loin steak with that T-shaped bone in the middle. Strip on one side, small tenderloin on the other. 2 steaks in one, right? You're typically paying $17 to $21 a pound. Here's reality. That tenderloin portion on most T-bones is small, sometimes just a few bites. You're getting a taste of filet, not a real serving. Want substantial portions of both? You need porterhouse. And there's a cooking challenge built in. Strip and tenderloin don't cook at the same rate. By the time your strip is perfect, that small filet side can easily be overdone. T-bone has been an American chop house icon since the early 1900s. There's romance to it. The presentation impresses. But you're often paying premium prices for the idea of 2 steaks while getting 1 good steak and a tiny overcooked sidekick. I know I'm poking a sacred cow here, pun intended. T-bone lovers, come defend your honor. T-bone skeptics, back me up. Let's settle this in the comments. 5. Porterhouse. Porterhouse is T-bone's bigger brother, and the size difference actually matters. Same concept. T-shaped bone, strip on one side, tenderloin on the other. But for a steak to legally be called porterhouse, that tenderloin must be at least 1¼ inches across. Real filet, not just a taste. You're typically paying $18 to $22 a pound. One porterhouse can weigh 2 pounds or more, built for sharing. In old steakhouse culture, porterhouse was called the king of steaks. 2 premium cuts, 1 plate, bone-adding flavor. The name comes from 19th century porterhouses, taverns serving big steaks with dark beer. Same cooking challenge applies, magnified. 2 muscles, different cook rates. Without reverse searing or zone grilling, you pay premium and still get uneven doneness. When it works, a properly cooked porterhouse is magnificent. When it doesn't, you've spent good money on an impressive-looking steak with a disappointing filet side. A porterhouse is meant to be shared with someone who matters. Picture that person right now. Tag them in the comments if you're feeling generous, or keep it to yourself if you're not ready to commit to sharing your steak. 4. New York strip. New York strip is the cut that defined American steakhouse culture, and it rewards quality more than almost any other. This comes from the short loin, same section as T-bone and porterhouse, but without bone or tenderloin attached. Pure strip. You're typically paying $19 to $23 a pound. Solidly premium territory? What makes strip special is balance. Not as tender as filet, but not tough. Satisfying chew that says steak. Not as fatty as ribeye, but enough marbling to stay juicy. That fat cap along the edge, rendered properly, bastes the meat. Manhattan steakhouses made this their signature. The name stuck because the cut delivers. But grade matters here. A prime or upper choice strip is beautiful. A lower grade strip cooked past medium rare can be tougher than a well-handled flat iron at half the price. Strip rewards quality ingredients and proper technique. It punishes corner cutting. We once cooked a select strip to medium well on a gas grill. Tasted like expensive cardboard. Lesson learned. Strip is the loyal, dependable friend of the steak world. Not flashy, just solid. If New York strip is your ride or die cut, I respect that. Tell me why it's earned your loyalty. We're entering the top 3, the Connoisseur's cuts, what chefs and butchers often cook for themselves. If you've wondered what separates good steak from legendary, pay attention. 3. Hanger steak, the Connoisseur's number 3. Hanger steak is what butchers kept for themselves instead of selling, and there's a reason you almost never see it. There's only 1 hanger per animal. 1 cow, 1 steak. That rarity is why supermarkets don't stock it. For a grocery store to have a dozen hangers, they'd need a dozen cows. Economics don't work. This is a butcher shop cut, a restaurant cut, something you seek out. You're typically paying $15 to $20 a pound when you find it. The flavor is extraordinary, rich, deep, almost mineral-like, a taste profile you don't get from any other cut. The French call it anglais and have treasured it for generations. Steak frites with hanger is a Parisian classic. It only entered mainstream American steak culture recently. The grain is loose, which makes it tender when handled right, but rules are strict. Hot and fast, no further than medium rare. Slice thin against the grain. Push past medium and that cult status flavor disappears into chewiness. Most people's first, wow, steak can taste like this moment is either a good ribeye or an accidentally perfect hanger. Here's your homework. Next time you're at a real butcher, ask if they carry hanger steak. Their answer will tell you a lot about whether you've found a good butcher. Report back with your findings. 2. Picanha, the Connoisseur's number 2. Picanha is the cut Brazilian grill masters have worshipped for generations, while American grocery stores grind it into hamburger. Also called sirloin cap or culotte, picanha is a triangular muscle from the top of the sirloin. Its defining feature, a thick cap of fat covering one side. When cooked properly, that cap renders and bastes the meat continuously. Juicy, intensely beefy slices. You're typically paying $14 to $20 a pound for what many butchers consider the best flavor-to-price ratio on the entire animal. In Brazilian churrasco tradition, picanha is royalty. Skewered, roasted over open flame, fat cap intact, sliced thin. The fat protects the meat, keeps it moist, delivers richness in every bite. Here's the shocking part. In many American supermarkets, this prized muscle gets broken down and sold as generic sirloin, or ground into burger. Demand hasn't caught up yet. Ask your butcher for it by name. Ask for the sirloin cap with fat cap left on. Once you've had it cooked right, you'll understand why South American beef culture revolves around this cut. This is not a heart-healthy pick. This is your occasional treat steak, so make it count. Once you've had properly cooked picanha, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. If you've already discovered it, welcome to the club. Tell me how you cook yours. If you haven't, your next mission is clear. If you've made it this far, you're serious about steak. A like genuinely helps the channel, and subscribing means you won't miss what comes next. Now, the champion. 1. Ribeye. The Connoisseur's number 1. Ribeye wins because of one glorious word: fat. Fat is flavor. Ribeye is the king of fat. It comes from the rib section, a relaxed area that doesn't work hard. The result? Abundant, fine marbling running throughout. Not just around the edges, through every bite. You're typically paying $20 to $25 a pound for choice or prime. Expensive, yes, but often less than filet mignon and comparable to porterhouse, while delivering more flavor than both. When that marbling renders, it bastes the steak from the inside out. Moist, deep, rich, almost buttery. This is the experience other cuts are measured against. Filet gives you tenderness. Porterhouse gives you variety. Ribeye gives you what matters most to a true steak lover: pure, unapologetic flavor. You'll see tomahawk and cowboy ribeyes with dramatic long bones, priced higher. Visually impressive, great for photos. But you're paying for bone length and presentation, not different meat. Standard boneless ribeye delivers the same eating experience for less. Chefs say it publicly. Butchers tell you privately. When people who know meat cook for themselves, ribeye shows up on their plates. This is also not heart healthy. This is your celebration steak, the one you earn. Final question, and I really want to know. If you could only eat one cut from the top 3 for the rest of your life, hanger, picanha, or ribeye, which would it be? There's no wrong answer, but there might be a fight in the comments. Let's see it. The simplified categories. Alright, I promised clarity. Here it is. 16 cuts and all those confusing labels simplified. First, the only label that truly matters. The USDA grade shield. Prime is top tier, highest marbling, what steakhouses use. Choice is the sweet spot for most home cooks. Still excellent. Select is leaner and less forgiving. Everything below becomes ground beef. Terms like Angus, grass-fed, and organic tell you how the animal was raised, not how good the steak will be. Check the grade first, always. Now, cuts by occasion? Weeknight dinners, good steak, reasonable price, minimal fuss. Top sirloin, flat iron, chuck eye. Choice grade is plenty. Real satisfaction without overthinking. If you're cooking for adult kids or grandkids who just want a good steak and don't care about the cut name, these are your stress-free choices. Feeding a crowd, maximum servings per dollar. Tri-tip, flank steak, picanha. Buy whole, cook properly, slice thin. Choice works perfectly. Special occasions, when you want to impress, ribeye. New York strip, porterhouse. This is where prime is worth the extra money. Connoisseur secrets, ask your butcher. Hanger steak, picanha, ribeye. What people who really know steak eat when cooking for themselves. Proceed with caution. Technique required? Round steaks, ranch steaks, sirloin tip. Marinate, slice thin, don't overcook. Even prime won't save bad technique. And if you're watching your health, if you're on cholesterol meds but still want steak occasionally, lean cuts like top sirloin or flank, cooked right, let you enjoy without going all in on ribeye every time. You don't have to give up steak, you just have to be smarter about which ones and how often. There it is, 16 cuts ranked, every price range covered. Now you know what to reach for whether it's Tuesday night or a celebration. The best steak isn't always the most expensive, it's the one right for the moment, right for your budget, cooked with the respect it deserves. Now I want to hear from you. What's your personal ranking? Is ribeye your champion? Or are you loyal to something else? And here's a challenge. Next time you're at the butcher, ask for hanger or picanha. See what they say. Come back and tell me. If you learned something, that thumbs up helps more than you know. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for spending your time with us. Until next time, keep those grills hot and those expectations higher. Until then, click on the video YouTube is showing you right now. It was selected specifically for you. Happy cooking, everyone!